Hello everyone. So I wanted to do a quick video to cover the infotainment system on my 2013 R56 Mini Cooper S. It's got the optional media pack and navigation. So already there's quite a number of videos on YouTube which cover this. However, I've noticed a lot of them are out of date now. Specifically, they seem to often use older models of the iPhone and older versions of the Mini software and the iOS operating system. So for this video we're on, as I say, a 2013 Mini, so it's quite late in the run of R56s. I'm using an iPhone 6s and the latest version of iOS, which is 11. I'm not sure of the minor version actually, but it's 11 is the major version, and the latest version of the Mini connected app. Now, a quick note on that, there are a couple of other older apps in the App Store, Mini Connected Classic and Mini Connected XL, but in the release notes they both say that they are no longer supported by Mini, so I'm using the Mini Connected app as it is today. Okay, so before we get into the infotainment, I'll give you a quick rundown of the other parts of this system. Sorry if this picture is a little bit wobbly, I'm using the iPad with one hand while I operate the system, but here we go. So first of all, we've got settings. Now this gives you access to things like, let's have a look at the door locks for example. So you can drive away and the doors will lock after a certain speed. So that's fairly explanatory. Now in all of these menus you will see sometimes a right arrow, and the right arrow will let you go into a further menu, and it's context sensitive depending on what option you're on at the time. So now we're in lights for example, and the right option takes you into the lights submenu. Okay, so that's settings. Now in each case we've got 3 buttons, as you can see. There's a home button to the left, there's the mini joystick which is multi-directional. It can be clicked down and it can rotate, so it acts like a jog wheel. And the third button is the 3 squares. Now that's a really useful button, because what that'll do is it'll take you between the last media that you're listening to, whether it be the radio or an external device for example, or a CD. The next press will take you to the navigation, and the third press will take you to the phone book. So that's basically a quick access button to the 3 main items that are commonly used during a journey. Okay, so let's get back to these options. So from settings, to go back we just toggle the joystick to the left. Okay, next one, vehicle information, and this tells you things like so that's your range and your distance and things. Similarly, that's for your journey. But this one's interesting and quite useful. It gives you the status of the tyres. Unlike newer models, it doesn't tell you the actual pressures, but it'll tell you if there's a problem. And also, after any problem has been resolved, you can use this menu to initialize. You can check the systems, and it's quite useful. It'll tell you when a service is needed, for example. So you can see there, I need my oil change in 20,000 miles or less. Okay, so we'll go back, and in each case you can either go back or you can press home. So sometimes pressing home is quicker. Okay, so there's Mini Connected, we'll come to that shortly because that's the main purpose of this video really. Office, now then, this is a funny one. Back in the day, in the old days of the iPhone 4, perhaps, I think about up to 5, this offered access to text messages and I believe emails. However, it now is quite limited. You can go to your contacts, which is kind of really just like going to the phone book in the phone menu, so there's not a lot of difference there really. But the Office part of it really is more to do with messaging. But in short, what this still will do is incoming messages will you'll receive a notification, and then you can read them just on the screen, which perhaps isn't a good idea if you're driving, but you can get the car to read them to you. So unfortunately I can't demonstrate that because I haven't had a message right now, but you do get an envelope on the top bar of the screen, and as I say, you can read the message out. So that is quite useful, but unfortunately the emails don't work. But I mean, perhaps emails in a car, you know, is that really necessary? That's for you to decide. Okay, navigation, and again there's plenty of videos online about this, so I won't go into too much detail, but in short, I think it's a very nice system. It's very clear, the screen's very clear. It does postcode search, which I believe some systems don't, so that's all important. It does have points of interest. I've never used it purely because they are what's the word, they're part of the map data that's on the system, and of course places like petrol stations, coffee shops change quite often. You know, one will close down, a new one will open, and perhaps the data's on this on here can be out of date. So I don't really use that. I do use the traffic. Traffic's quite good. So when you go onto here, yeah, you know, if you're going on a trip, you can, before you begin, it's to be honest, I wouldn't use this menu while you're moving unless you've got a passenger to help you, but before you start a trip you can have a quick scroll down and see if there's anything really bad, and you know, perhaps avoid it, because this data is real time. I believe it uses a TMC system. Not quite sure how that works, but I think it's something to do with the telephone signal. So navigation, pretty good. You do have to toggle night mode manually, unlike my old Garmin, which seemed to work automatically based on the clock. But for me, I'd just leave it in night mode all the time. As I say, I'm not going to go into the navigation too much in this video because it is quite extensively covered already. Okay, what's next? Okay, so we've got the telephone. It's fairly standard. You've got the this is mainly for sort of connecting. I think you have, yeah, you got your phone book. Like you say, you got your messages there, but there's nothing incoming at the moment. So you've got fairly usual features: last number redial, phone book, things like that. And that, yeah, it does what it says on the tin really. It's nothing too exciting to talk about there. Okay, so now we're starting to get into the media features. So the radio, on this model I've got DAB, and I do like that, to be honest. It's pretty cool. So you can basically pick, as you can see there, FM, AM or DAB. This is my go-to place, saved stations, and you can save it, FM, AM, DAB. So that's pretty cool, works really well. 10 out of 10 for that, really like it, don't have any problems. I've driven from, not quite from one end of the country to the other, but that's England, by the way, for our viewers overseas. But I've driven, you know, trips of sort of 600 miles without a problem. So, okay. What's next? External devices. So here we have CD, which I don't use. We've got Bluetooth audio and external devices. Now external devices could be like an iPod or something. I don't know how well you can see that, but there's at the bottom of the console there's a USB port, which I'll get to in a moment. But I've only really used the Bluetooth audio, which I believe the models that don't have this screen, this media pack, don't have audio streaming via Bluetooth, but this model does, so that's quite useful. And you do get reasonable interaction here. Yeah, okay, so this this menu is for configuration, and once you, as you can see, my iPhone is connected, and critically you can see the music symbol is lit up there, which means the audio is paired with the car. So to actually play it, it appears as an external device, which as you can see there, and that is playing. It's just the volume's turned down. Just briefly, so you can see that's playing away. Okay, so when you're playing music through Bluetooth streaming, I'm pleased to report that the steering wheel controls do work well. Volume up down works, and the track control buttons work. So if I just try to skip a track there, as you can see, that's gone to the next track. Interestingly, there's no way of stopping the music or pausing it, but when you press the push the volume knob in, you'll see there's a mute symbol, and you'll notice the music's paused. So that all works pretty well. So that's about it for Bluetooth streaming, but we do have another option, which is through the cable. So this car does have the armrest, which incorporates a dock. Well, it's actually a port for an optional snap-in connector, which I don't have one, but it's kind of like a cradle that you first put the phone in and then clip the whole thing into the armrest, which would then interface it with the car, with this display that you can see. It's a pretty nice idea, but I believe the adapters are quite pricey, and I've got a case on my phone, and I'm sure that it probably wouldn't work with that. So the other way I connect it is with the ports down here. Now you can see there's a USB port and a headphone jack, and what I've actually got is, it's not a genuine one, but it is a what you call a Y cable. Now I can confirm, if you just put the Apple Lightning connector into this port, the USB port on its own, it will charge the phone, but it will not play the music. So there seems to be varying opinions online about this, but for me that was the case. So if you want to charge the phone and get better integration with the car's screen and controls, you need one of these cables. Okay, so I've just plugged in my phone to the USB cable, and as you can see there, this highlights a slightly annoying featurette about going between cable use and Bluetooth streaming. So it's warning you now that the Bluetooth streaming has been deactivated. So that's fine, I press OK. But what that means is, when you if you then disconnect the phone and want to then use it through Bluetooth streaming, you have to go out of here and go into here, and then into this, and then that, and then what you would do is you would tick that one. So that's how you would get back to enabling Bluetooth streaming. Okay, so now we've got the cable on, now the cable's connected, we have we just come out here and go back to external devices and back to the phone. Okay, so now we have much better integration. So you see that music's playing there, but I'll just turn it down. So what we now have, we've got a few more options. We've got playlists, and we've got, well, I mean, as before, we've got the forward and back skipping options, but we also have playlists. Now I find this a lot more useful, because what you can do is set up the playlists in advance, and then that gives you a lot more control on the road, so you know, with a lot more safety. So in the playlists there's a number of ones that are curated by Apple, and so see, I'm got a few there. Apologies if it's not to your music taste, but it demonstrates the system. So just pick anything, and if you play that, that should start. And now you will get the album art as well, which is quite nice. There you go. It is a little bit slow to respond, but you do get it, and it just makes, you know, if you're on a long journey and stuff, it's quite nice. Okay, so when you're using the wide connection, you do get a search facility, which I'll quickly demonstrate. So, new search, that resets everything. And then we go artists, for example. Just pick anything. And then we'll just say all albums. And we'll just go playback. And hopefully that should. There we go. So that's chosen what I've picked. There we go. So, okay, so that's search. Okay, so I'm just going to quickly demonstrate the integration with the navigation and Mini Connected. So what I've done, within the Mini Connected app on my phone, I've picked a destination, Big Ben, and I said to it, go. And I was asked to connect to the car, which I've done, and as you can see, it's gone straight into the menu, which gives me the option to start the guidance. So if I just press start, we're straight into the navigation, and then if we then go to Mini Connected, now we can see several options. So if we go into Mini Connected, and there's our destination. Now this menu doesn't really bring in a great deal of additional functionality over the navigation. I mean, generally the system overall is a little bit like that. You can sometimes find menus and options that are perhaps available elsewhere in the system, but generally it's not bad. I do find personally, with it not being a touchscreen, with it instead having the iDrive type controller, I find it much easier to use on the move. So, you know, but that is a personal thing. Some people do prefer touchscreen. Now the Mini's got quite hard suspension, and I remember in the old days having a previous car with similar suspension. When I had the phone on a windscreen mounted cradle, pressing it was quite tricky when the car was moving, which I appreciate you shouldn't be doing anyway, to be fair. Okay, so as I say, the only other thing this seems to do, it's got this menu to do with Find Mate. Now Mini still do a system today where you can buy little Bluetooth tags, attach them to items you don't want to misplace or forget, like a bag. And the principle is, if you go to begin a journey and that bag isn't within Bluetooth range, it'll let you know. I've never tried it, but I'm assuming that still works. Now there is another menu, notify via Twilio. Now I believe this once was a system that would inform a contact of your choice via text message of your estimated arrival. That does not work, unfortunately. I've had a few goes at it. It tries, you get like the loading symbol, but it just doesn't work. So that's a shame. That is about it for Mini Connected, but it still leaves us with additional apps. Okay, additional apps. BMW Mini have certified a number of apps which they say are compatible with this system, several of which I use. So let's take a look. Now the first thing to note is there are a number of items on this list which in my experience don't work. I think in some cases they're no longer available on the App Store, which is telling me that this list is hard-coded into the car's software. I am running the latest Infotainment software, and just a side note on that, I downloaded it from BMW's website using a memory stick. Where are we at? I inserted the memory stick into that USB port, started the car up, and it allowed me to update So I am running the latest version of the infotainment system for this car, but this list has not been updated. That said, there are some nice items that still work, which I'm now going to demonstrate. Okay, so once you can see your external apps, you can leave this menu. So let's go back to the main menu. The apps that I use are all to do with entertainment. So if we first go to the CD multimedia menu, now that's going to take me straight into the external devices. So if we just come back one level by moving the joystick to the left, you'll see an additional apps menu. So we pick that, and now this list, I believe, is up to date and relevant. Obviously I haven't got all of these on my phone. I don't have Napster, Deezer or Amazon. I do, however, have Spotify and Audible. So let's pick Spotify. So that, it does tend to do that, so if we just give it a moment. Okay, so that that brief pause you saw there where it went back to the main screen, I stopped the video to see what that was about, and what it actually was on Audible we had a menu, well, it was like a dialogue saying effectively, do I want to upgrade to premium, with a dismiss button, and as soon as I press dismiss, it's all working fine. So obviously if you're a paid member of Spotify, you shouldn't have that problem, but I'm not, so yeah, that's basically why that happened. But once you're in there, it's quite nice really. You've got full search, which you can use the thing. I probably wouldn't use that on the move really. I don't think it would be a good idea, but maybe if you're stuck in traffic. Again, you've got, similar to the main phone integration, you've got sort of like effectively playlists really, which is probably the main thing you're going to use. So Discover Weekly, whatever that is. And I think that's probably an advert. Yeah, so that's an advert, so we'll just wait till that finishes. Okay. And of course, being the free one, I only have skip forward. I do have repeat, and you can also save, so that's pretty cool. And as always, as before, you cannot pause it using the buttons, but you can pause it using the volume knob, which we'll do there. And yes, that's stopped. Okay, so that is Spotify, and let's pick something else. So let's pick Audible. Okay, now it did when I first started using this, I had to say on the phone yes to the menu that was asking me if it was okay to open Audible. So as that menu on the car explained, you do have to do that once, but once you've done it, I have tested it, I've come right out of everything, disconnected the phone, turned the car off, put it all back on, and you don't need to do that again, so that's pretty cool. Okay, so this should be working.
I've been getting it in the neck.
Yeah, that's Mojo there on Audible, and this is pretty cool. Again, you've got various options. You can go right into your library. You've got bookmarks. You can add bookmarks, slow the speed down, increase it. Change chapters. You can go backwards and forwards 30 seconds. So I do like this app. It's pretty nice really. Okay, let's have a look at something else. Okay, the next thing I wanted to show you was the radio. So obviously we've already taken a brief look at this with regard DAB, etc. But now we've got the additional apps connected, we'll get something else. So that is, it always takes me to save stations. So if we just move the joystick to the left and come out of there, you'll see now we've got additional apps. So if I pick that, now the one that I do use is TuneIn. Now this has been broken for a little while, but they've just done a release today that has fixed it. So if we just, as I say before, there is little delays with this system, so you do need to be patient, but there you go, it's coming on now. So let's just check that's working. And I was listening to a podcast, as you can see there, American Monetary Association. Okay, so in my favourites, we've got some dance there, for example. Now you do find the album art takes a while to catch up, but
actually, I started on £27,000. I was offered a really
right, so that's an advert. Yeah, I mean, again, this I'm not a paid member of TuneIn, but I don't find the adverts too bad. It's just like listening to a commercial radio station, really. You know, under normal radio, it's not a problem.
Apply now to train. Search, apply to teach.
Okay. So that should be loading up. There we go. So the album art's a little bit slow there, but let's see what else we can do. So we've got, see, it's pretty cool. You know, if you listen to something and you're on the move, you can still favourite it so that you don't forget it later on. I've never tried to use these, so I'm not quite sure what they are, but again, you can go forwards and backs, and actually I've never tried the steering wheel controls with TuneIn, so let's give it a go. Oh yeah, that's looking good. So let's move on to something else. Yeah, so in my experience, TuneIn works pretty well. Okay, so one other thing I'd like to point out, which I've only just recently discovered. In the past, when I've used these systems, you know, whether it be Audible, Spotify, whatever it might be, and I'm on a trip, I might then want to go back to listening to the phone's own music, you know, the music that I've got stored in my iTunes, and I couldn't quite work out how to do it, but I think I have now. So basically, you would go back to the phone, which is obviously going to start up the Audible, but then basically what you do is just go to playlists, and for example, if I pick that and then that, again the album art's a little slow, but as you can see we're back on to the album there. So that side of things doesn't work badly in my opinion. As I say, it's far from polished, but it's stable and it's usable, and with the joystick I find it's reasonably safe to use on the road. Okay, so before I go, there is one more app that I'd like to tell you about, and the app is quite useful for informing people of your estimated arrival time once you've programmed the sat-nav. So it's called Glimpse, and it's something I've used and I do like it. So let's go to the Mini Connected menu. Now then, there is a slight caveat. Unlike the apps that we've just been looking at for entertainment, the Glimpse app is it's not an entertainment app, so it lives in sort of the central area, the Mini Connected menu. But you'll notice the Mini Connected app is no longer present, and the reason for that is that the Mini Connected app is not in the foreground of the phone. I haven't shown you on this video, but when you launch an app such as TuneIn Radio, if you look at your phone, obviously when your vehicle's stationary, you'll see the app's actually launched on the phone. So now the Mini Connected app is not in the foreground, the Mini Connected menu is not available, nor is the additional apps. So one option is to stop the car and do it by hand. Another option is Siri. Hey Siri. Launch Connected. And as you can see, the Connected app is now launched. That will not work if you have Apple's Do Not Disturb While Driving option enabled, because I tried it and Siri said to me I can't do that while you're driving, so that's worth noting. But now we have the Mini Connected app available, so if we go in there, in fact, pardon me, not that, additional apps is what we want. So if we go down to Glimpse, yeah, there we go. Just give it a moment. You do have to be a little bit patient with this system, but it is pretty reliable. Okay, so now then, again, some of these features don't work, like the calendar. For some reason, the calendar on the iPhone 6 in this app and also in the car's office menu, it just doesn't seem to work anymore. It's just a shame. But what you can do is you can basically say new glimpse, and you can, if your trip is going to be 3 or 4 hours long, you would obviously adjust that. You know, up to, well, it can go up to 4 hours. Destination, yeah, there you go. Current navigation, which is what you want. I've never tried to put a message in, but yeah, okay, so there's a few built-in ones, which is pretty good. But the main thing I've used this for is just going to the people. You pick a person. Now there is a wrinkle with this. If you use the app on the handset itself, you can send it to somebody with just with a phone number. So it'll send them a text, and there's a link in the text, and they can go on the internet on Glimpse's site and watch your destination. Through this car, it doesn't seem to work. So if the contact has an email address, it will email them, which is a shame, really. I do think that's unfortunate, but nonetheless, it does have some use. And most people today do have email, and most people have emails on the phone, so they will get a notification. And if it's somebody that's waiting for you, it may prove useful. So that's about it. I hope this video has been useful. I do apologise for the slight shaky picture. I'm using an iPad, and it's not the easiest thing in the world to carry. But if you've got any questions, let me know, and I'll certainly try to answer them. Thanks for looking. Bye bye.